Hello everyone. Today we are going to start with Karl Marx. Just imagine Kabir Singh as Karl Marx in modern times. Why? Because both of them wanted to bring change in the society through revolution. Karl Marx was unhappy because the working class, that is proletariat, were being exploited by the upper or middle class, that is bourgeois. He believes that revolutions are necessary manifestations of the historical progress of societies. In his historical or dialectical materialism, he states that materialism is the condition or the economic factors which affect the structure and development of society. Hence, we can say that economic structure is the actual basis of the society. He borrowed this idea from the Hegel's dialectical idealism and Feuerbach's materialism. In Hegel's dialectical idealism, he has emphasized more on the ideas which brings change, but Marx believed that material sources and conditions and not the ideas are important in the working of any mode of production. He believes that reality is not determined by human consciousness. Rather, social reality determines the human consciousness. In his historical materialism, there are two aspects. The one is the static, which includes the economics infrastructure at the base and social superstructure. And in the dynamic one, he has evolution process in terms of dialectic process, which includes dialectics between the relation of production and force of production. Relation of production leads to stratification and formulation of classes, which are mainly categorized into haves, that is bourgeois, and the have-nots. Haves have control over the forces of production, that is land, natural resource, technology, whereas have-nots don't even have control on their own labor. And according to Marx, human history is an account of development and consequences of new forces of material production, and this is the reason for the name of historical materialism. And from this picture, it is pretty much clear that relation of production and means of production forms the economic base which gives shape to the superstructure, which includes media, religion, culture, politics, family, education, states, etc. And this superstructure maintains the base. I mean, it serves the base. And so we can say that change in force of production leads to change in relation of production, that is change in mode of production, which results in change in superstructure character of the society. This picture clears that economic base shapes the social superstructure, and this economic base is controlled by the ruling class, and hence superstructure is also controlled by the ruling class, and this social institutions of the superstructure serves the ruling class interest only. We can see the interrelations between the base and the superstructure. Then in mode of production, the first mode of production is the primitive communism, which is also known as Asiatic mode of production. There is no class, very less division of labor, and the relation is mainly based on cooperation. It is a society kind of primitive or tribal kind of society. And gradually, towards the end of primitive communism, there were a certain group of people who were physically strong, which brought the concept of private property and hence led to the emergence of a different type of society, which is the ancient slave mode of production. So in first mode of production, there was no class struggle and no antagonism, but from the second onwards, we have observed there is a class struggle between the master and the slave, where the control over skills and tools were central. Slaves didn't have control on their labors even. Then we have feudalistic mode of production, that is the relation between the feudal landlords versus the landless laborers. Here, land was central to the economic activity which is controlled by the feudal landlords only, and serfs were forced to cultivate and had to pay tax to the service. Here, in this mode of production, the antagonism is mainly between the haves. Here, we can see that between king, nobles, knights, and monks, though they were working together, but yes, they have certain antagonism instead of have nots. Then we have reached at the capitalist mode of production, where the uh, where the where the antagonism is at peak and exploitation is so intensified. Here in this, the individual freedom, democracy, social mobility serves to conceal the exploitation which is at the core of the society, which is from this picture we can see very clearly that here people are very liberal, but they are at the base and they are being exploited by the capitalists who are at the top. And in this mode of production, the force of production is industrialist industries, and then the relation is capitalist versus proletariat. And we have found a very rise in factories as units of production instead of family, and there were cutthroat competition. Then from capitalism to communism, because of revolution, the force of production develop leads to change in relation of production, and then the realization of being exploited by the owner leads to class struggle which would overthrow capitalism by the proletariat. And from this picture it is pretty much clear that the workers are going to come together, unite together against the capitalist, and later on dictatorship of proletariat will come to an end to realize the true potential of all human beings. Here the humanity rises up, which leads to the emergence of communist mode of production. And then we have the socialistic mode of production, which is also known as the first phase of communism, where the stage no, it is the stage where the society is classless and it is based on the principle of equality. Everyone is equal here, and there is no concept of private property ownership. In socialism, the ownership structure is divided into two, that is state ownership and ownership by cooperatives, and everyone is working together for the betterment of society. But in communism, there is a single ownership, that is whether state or community ownership, and here the truth emerges and all will be enlightened, and that will lead to the end of dialectical materialism. And here we can see that people are working together and everything is equally divided among them. Let's have a look at the critiques of the Karl Marx. Karl Marx has given less important to social superstructure in causing change. For example, in modern capitalist society of today, welfare, states, laws, etc. are taking keen initiatives for the benefits of the have-nots rather than acting as an instrument of the haves. Then Karl Marx is also considered to be more futuristic because his futuristic communist utopian idea has never arrived. Even in so-called communist countries, they are moving towards capitalism. For example, a famous study of Frank Parkin found that classes exist within the various socialist societies of Europe. Proletariats have never taken a leading role in toppling capitalism. Hence, dictatorship of proletariat is a utopian ideology. Instead, this leading role is taken by the intellectuals who has brought the revolution in the society. The theory is criticized for narrow empiricism and being reductionist in approach. It also ignored the feminist dimension of the production, and as patriarchy is also seen as an important factor in the growth of capitalism. Then let's have a look at the Marx theory in the recent COVID-19. Under capitalism, surplus value is appropriated by capitalists, which leads to accumulation of wealth at one pole and pauperization of working people at another. In the name of fighting pandemic, capitalist governments are taking more control in their hands. unequal distribution of housing property, the poor districts in which the workers are crowded together are the breeding places of the epidemic, and this is the reason why the migrant workers are so panicked to move towards their native places. Then Marx and Engels also analyze the dialectics of nature, which leads to COVID-19 is an outcome of exploitation of nature only. The future is going to witness intense class struggles for political power so that new social order emerges in which the states shall ensure housing, healthcare, education, and all means of livelihood to all its citizens, and equality, justice, and dignity of all citizens are upheld. For example, announcement of relief packages by the government is an initiative towards the working or the lower class. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please do like, subscribe, and comment.